What's good? What's good, party people? Welcome to Candid Conversations. I am your host, Candia Johnson, a woman on a mission to help you show up and speak up anyway, despite dealing with fear, uncertainty, or self-doubt. So today we are talking about an unstoppable mindset. Recently, I was hired by a company to conduct a workshop, and the title of my session was Mastering Me. I didn't choose the title, the company's employees chose it. So I was even more excited to speak and deliver this talk because a few years ago, I realized the lesson that's taking me the longest to learn is that mastering a skill or a particular set of skills was never really my problem. Mastering me and all of my BS, my belief system for those of you who are new, mastering me and all of my BS, including my insecurities, fears, and assumptions about how the world works, that was my problem. It continues to be my problem. It's even your problem. That's probably why you listening to me. But don't worry, we gonna grow through this thing together. But anywho, as I was developing the key messages for my session, I wanted to come up with some guiding principles that I would share with them before we got into the nitty gritty. I wanted these guiding principles to be focused on what it takes for you to open yourself up to the process of mastering you so that you can embrace an unstoppable mindset. And in that process of me thinking about some of the guiding principles, I came across this book that I read many years ago. The book is called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, A Life Transformed by the Daily Departing. Now, the book was published, I believe, in 2012 or 2013, and the author is Bronnie Ware. So Bronnie is a palliative care nurse, and she wrote a blog article about her experiences caring for people who were dying and the most common regrets that they expressed to her. And so I want to share 5 of them with you and then share my tips for developing an unstoppable mindset, a mindset of showing up imperfectly, loving yourself unconditionally, and having no regrets during the process. So the first regret is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. The second regret is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. The third regret, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. The fourth regret, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. And the fifth regret is, I wish I'd let myself be happier. And so the stories from me in the Top 5 Regrets book, it helps you realize that what you think you will regret when you are young is definitely not what you will regret when you get older, or when you get to that point when you realize that you are faced with death. And it also helped me identify the guiding principles for my talk. And so I wanted to share them with you so you could recognize that, number one, life is so precious and short. And sometimes we spend too much time stuck on the past or stuck anticipating a future that we cannot control. And the only moment that matters is the moment right in front of you, because the moment right in front of you is the only moment that you can control. At the time I'm recording this podcast, it's 10:04 a.m. in the morning. I cannot control what happens at 10:10 or 10:15. I can't control 2 o'clock or 6 o'clock this evening. Those moments are not promised to me. They ain't promised to you either. Life is precious, and you can be as healthy as you want to be. And this afternoon, you're feeling horrible. And the next moment, you're out of here. So you're not promised any other moment than the moment right in front of you. What are you going to do with the moment right in front of you? When it comes to mastering you and all of your emotions, fears, and assumptions about how the world works and living with an unstoppable mindset, there are a few things I believe you should remind or say to yourself daily, such as, my brain is a work in progress, not a finished project. I give myself permission to change my mind and be open to no longer believing certain things. I give myself permission to be open to receiving help, not because I'm incompetent, but because I'm not a slave to hours. I am in service to what energizes me or fuels me, not to what drains me. Another thing that you should say to yourself often is, I can enjoy myself now. I give myself permission to have fun now. Too many of us put off having fun and enjoying life, or we have this retirement mindset. When I retire, I'll finally be able to do this, or I'll finally be able to relax. No, you're not promised retirement. You're not promised when you make six figures or when you make $100,000 a year, you're going to feel this way, or you're going to be able to do this. You're not promised that job or promotion. You're not promised a vacation 2 months from now or a week from now. What are you going to do with the moment right in front of you? You're promised this moment. Another thing to remind yourself of is give yourself permission to stop setting goals reliant on other people's stamp of approval. And so one of the shifts for me is I've been talking about, I have wanted to write a book for several years. I've entertained the idea. A publisher reached out to me and asked me to put together a book proposal. And so I did, and they rejected the proposal. And it was a blow probably to my ego. So one of the reasons why I didn't write a book, because I felt like I didn't have that stamp of approval. And the other ego-driven reason is that I got so stuck or hung up on, I wanted to write a best-selling book. But I started to focus on, I don't have to write a best-selling book. I can write a book that brings me joy. I can write a book I'm proud of. I can write a book that represents the words that I needed to read 10 years ago. Let me write a book that represents that. A book that I would give to me 5 years ago. And that freed me to start writing and outlining and putting myself on a schedule to write a book. An unstoppable mindset is also about giving yourself permission to feel awkward and uncomfortable on whatever journey that you're on to get more of what you dream about or more of what you feel you deserve. You know, another thing, when you think about the regret, the top regret of the dying, I wish I would have lived a life true to myself and not the life others expected of me. When you think about that, along with the unstoppable mindset and the awkward and uncomfortable feelings that comes with that, listen, sometimes you're going to have to disappoint some people and you're going to feel uncomfortable about it. But when you think about living a life that's true to yourself and not the life others, whether that's your mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, your best friend, whomever, you're going to have to disappoint them. That's just the reality of it. You want to achieve some mind-blowing things. You want to step into that next best version of yourself. You want to just feel comfortable and at peace with who you are, regardless of what people think. You're going to have to allow yourself to feel uncomfortable, feel awkward, and disappoint people at the same daggone time. Because on the other side of that experience is an opportunity for you to let yourself be happier. And that journey of becoming happy starts with an understanding that it's not going to feel good all of the time. We need to do things we think are scary or uncomfortable, not because everything is going to work in your favor if you do the scary thing, but simply because those things ultimately build your confidence. Confidence is a muscle. And it's not failure that destroys your confidence or kills your dreams. It's not getting back up after you stumble or fail. That's what destroys your hidden potential or your dreams. Sometimes that comes with a feeling of awkwardness or feeling uncomfortable. But just like pain doesn't always mean you're injured, feeling uncomfortable doesn't mean that you should stop. So giving yourself permission, and I always say this on this podcast, to feel all the feels. Because that's the thing, when we talk about happiness, happiness for me is simply means giving yourself permission to feel all the feels. That I could feel the good, bad, and ugly. I could give myself a moment to be sad and pop right back up. It's not about your circumstances. It's about your choices, choosing to decide to get back up. So when we think about the person who says, I regret not allowing myself to be happy, a lot of that too relates to your willingness to forgive yourself. Give yourself permission to forgive yourself. Remember we talked about moments earlier? Well, here's the thing. That moment that you are probably judging yourself, that moment that happened years ago, weeks ago, or even something that happened yesterday. I hate to tell you this, but it's no longer something that you can control. Forgive yourself. And listen, don't go building. You got to stop building a story around what could possibly happen in the future, because you can't control the future. The only moment that you can control is the moment you have right now. What's the best thing that you can do right now? And best is subjective and best is temporary. What's best to do right now may not be what's best to do later, but we working with the now. Okay? The now in this moment is the only thing you have. And lastly, and this is probably one of the more important ones, it's giving yourself permission to spend more time with people who bring you joy. Stop spending time with killjoys and people who zap your energy and people who are always negative. And I don't even care if they're in your family. I don't. Because listen, all family ain't family. But you know what? That's an episode for another day. Stop spending time with people who don't make you feel beautiful, with people who don't make you feel like you're worthy, with people who don't make you feel happy. Cut them off. Don't have that as one of your top 5 regrets. There's a psychotherapist, Virginia Satir, who once said that most people prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. And I see that so much with people who stay in relationships and jobs that are no longer serving them. Don't make your willingness to stay in misery turn into a regret at the end of your life. Because the harsh truth is, death is inevitable. But death can also be a motivator. Because it's the one thing that we all know for sure will happen at some point. Let it motivate you to spend more time with people who bring you joy versus the people who drain your energy, versus the people who make you miserable. Put it in your calendar to figure out a way to spend more time with those people who bring you joy, even if it is talking with them on the phone. I was talking with one of my good friends the other day, and she was like, I don't speak to none of my friends every single day. I said, neither do I. I speak to my mom and my sister every day, but I feel like this is my mom and my sister. So that just comes naturally. But those are the only 2 people I speak to every day. My closest friends, I do not speak to every single day. At the same time, if I text them and I'm like, I usually say like, how's your spirit? And if they give me some kind of a vague answer that makes me feel uneasy. So one of my friends replied to my text and said, I'm coming along, girl. Or, girl, I'm struggling. That's a conversation. Let's get on the phone. I'm not going to do this texting back and forth with these vague answers. Girl, what's good? What's happening with you? I'm going to pick up the phone. And so I wanted to share these mindset shifts with you, particularly because it's about understanding, do what you can with what you have right now. Another thing to remind yourself of is allow yourself to change your mind. Allow yourself to be open to receiving help. Allow yourself to feel afraid, because oftentimes the things that we fear are the things that will free us. So that you don't have to have that regret of, I wish I would have allowed myself to be happier, or I wish I wouldn't worked so hard, or I wish I would have had the courage to live a life true to myself. Give yourself permission to feel all the things. Okay, so this is a short episode today, but if you are listening to me, I appreciate you. This episode touched your heart, in any way, share it with your people so they could share it with their people. Leave me a review on Apple iTunes. It would be so greatly appreciated. Have a good day, party people. We'll talk to you soon.